Welcome to the Agent Mentor Podcast, where we don't just talk real estate, we navigate it. You've heard it before, a coach is like a GPS, giving you turn-by-turn directions to hit your goals fast. But as your mentor, I'm here to do more than just guide you. I'm here to light the way, help you sidestep the roadblocks, and make sure you enjoy every moment of the journey. Whether you're a brand new agent learning the ropes or you're an experienced pro facing the next big challenge, this podcast is your go-to resource for practical tips, everyday advice, and stories from the trenches. We'll break down the strategies that really work and tackle the obstacles that come with building a successful real estate career. Let's hit the road to your success together. You will recognize that I am not in my home office. I am coming to you today from Salt Lake City, Utah. And it's super funny because I had the topic for this episode all planned out. I knew what I wanted to talk about. And then I finished up this conference and it completely changed the direction of the podcast in an incredible way because I'm at this Ignite conference that Dustin Brome, who if you don't know who he is, go give him a follow on social media. He is a thought leader. He runs the Massive Agent Society, and he's got so many connections to like the most incredible top producers around the country. And so he put together this team leading mastermind here in Salt Lake, where he is from. And I got here and it was a 2-day conference, and I, of course, took all the notes and just, all the ideas, and I'm thinking, I got to implement this and I got to start requiring office hours to my team. And I'm like, thinking about all these changes I need to make. And then at the end of the conference, it wrapped up with Utah's #1 team leader, which is super intimidating, right? Like, this guy sells like $100+ million in real estate every year. So super intimidating. And what I wanted to talk about today was the voices in our head, right? Like the inner dialogue that we have and how that affects our business. And man, did I come face to face with that reality after listening to this guy speak, because immediately what I started to recognize were all of the doubts and the fears and the you're not good enoughs that I allow myself to continue to think and plant in my head. And so I'm excited to kind of give you this like real time experience that I'm having and try to help you take control of those voices in your head. So today's episode is about that. Like, what are the voices in your head telling you? And originally when I had planned this episode, it was more about, starting to pay really close attention to just the inner dialogue, right? Like, when you open up social media, what are the thoughts saying? Like, what are the voices in your head kind of saying? Like, oh, look at that listing. Like, I don't have a listing that good. Like, just being really curious. I have this year kind of been going through this whole experience and journey of being curious and staying curious and following the curiosity. Like, I wonder why that triggers me. I wonder why I thought that. I wonder why I think that I need this in my business. And just continuing to follow this curiosity to really kind of figure out what I want aside from everything that the industry and that the world tells me that I want, because that is a really hard thing to do, especially in our industry of real estate. And so, again, my initial idea for this episode was just to encourage you to be more aware, first of all, like more present with your thoughts and be paying attention to them, and then kind of talk about how we really start to rewire them. So the way that this sort of pivoted a little bit is I just want to kind of unpack for you what I have actively been doing over the last day or two and how that's been really helpful. And then also kind of how this ties into our real estate business so that we can live a more positive, healthier life around this industry, because I think that it can be a very toxic place, especially because we oftentimes live on social media as real estate agents. So I just want to, again, like kind of break down what happened. So I listened to all these thought leaders over the last couple of days. I also sat in a room with, there were agents that had never had a team, that were only really newly trying to grow their own business, up to these people like the number one, the Perry Group, which is the number one team in all of Utah. And so there was a lot of in between, right? So it was kind of all across the board, which was really cool and really awesome to see different perspectives. However, I have had something to prove to people. I have my air quotes going in real estate since the day that I started. It hasn't always been the same person. Sometimes it's been myself, but I basically was brought into this industry with something to prove. And I'm realizing that, here 7 years into the business, and I don't want to live like that anymore. And so there was a big part of me over the course of these last couple of days that was hearing these achievers, and like it started to like really stir that up in me. Like I was like, yep, that's what I want. That's what I've always wanted. Like, yep, I got to do this. I can do this. Like, I just noticed that initially when I got here and I started listening to these people, and they're like, yeah, my goal is to make $1 million profit this year. And I'm like, yeah, that's what I want. And then by the end of this day 2 on this 2-day conference, I was mentally exhausted. The fatigue that I felt, the confusion, honestly, like I felt like I had less clarity about what my business, my team, and everything should and what I wanted it to look like than I did when I got here, because I have been so present and I have been working so hard to sort all of that out. And then I got here and it all shifted and it all pivoted. And then I was left feeling very confused. And so last night I went on a walk and I just let myself start thinking the thoughts. And they were really sad. Honestly, they were thoughts of like, you're not good enough. Like, you can't do that. Like, you're never going to look like that. And it almost makes me want to get emotional here, because I just am trying in this season of my life, I'm really trying to get in touch with like the inner being of who I actually am. When I rip away all of the industry standards that I've been told, all of the societal standards that I've been told, that my life needs to look like this, my house needs to look like this, my family needs to look like this, all of these things, I've been slowly working on tearing those down and peeling back this onion. And then I get here and it just like is thrown right back on top of me, which was good. I think that this was a really important part of my journey. So there are no regrets. I encourage you, any of you, if you can get in a room with some really diverse thought leaders and some agents that are in different places of their business, it's incredible, because you can pick and choose and try to really narrow down what it is that's appealing to you. But anyways, I digress. And so I felt like I had this clarity, and then I get here, and then this other side of me, that's the achiever, the Enneagram 3, that's like wants to achieve and wants accolades and wants awards. It was fueled. It got some serious oxygen to that flame. But then, like I said, when I really sat down at the end of that conference and I thought about it, like really thought about what their life has to look like on a day-to-day business, I started to ask myself, is that what I want? Do I want to have to do that? Do I want to build a culture that looks like that? Are these the types of agents that I want to support? And so I went through all of this question asking, and the way that I got to those questions was literally staying curious. Like when I would have that thought, and Ed Milet just talked about this actually on one of his podcasts about this concept of compassionate curiosity, and I really love that, because when I thought this, like when I had that thought of like, you're never gonna make it like that, I didn't just try to install this toxic positivity to it, like, you're good enough, you can do it, it was like, I just started asking questions like, well, if you could do it, is that what you would actually want? And so after, I went through this, honestly, this roller coaster of emotions last night, feeling like you're not good enough, you could never do that, your business will never look like that, you're never going to be successful as successful as that guy, like you can't even get a social media following. Like I went through all of these like really mean thoughts, honestly, to myself. But then I started really thinking about what I want out of my life. And it comes back to where I started, like where I came into this conference. Because when I came into this conference, I had some clarity around what I wanted. And I was there. I didn't have it all figured out. I still don't have it all figured out, of course. I'm still learning, and I think that that's important. I think that if you ever feel like you have it all figured out, you're up for like a really hard fall. But I was at a place where I was starting to learn how to let myself off the hook. Let myself be okay with not being the number one producer in my marketplace, because I don't think that I'm willing to sacrifice what it takes to get that, right? And so I started to remind myself, like, no, you could have that if you wanted, but you have decided that you want to raise chickens and you want to prioritize your kids when they're home, and you want to improve your health. You want to prioritize improving your HRV, which means I have to like help my body and my mind figure out what the parasympathetic and the sympathetic life looks like, because I had been running this race thinking that I wanted this ultimate success and top producer status and all of these things, and it burnt me out, and it caused probably some superficial desires and some health concerns and all of these things. And so I'm at a place where I had decided when I came in here that I don't want those things. So then I have to have that honest conversation with myself that it's okay that you're not going after the number one team in Madison, Wisconsin. That is okay. As long as my priorities are right and they are being set, and they are first and foremost, they are being decided by my heart and what I want out of life, out of business. And come to find out, it does not look like that. It doesn't. And this is hard for me because, like I said, this is a very drastic pivot for me from what I have been doing, the race that I have been running since I started in real estate. So maybe you're asking, no, so how does this relate to you, and how does this relate to real estate? I think that one of the best and most important things that you can do for your business, whether you are day one or you are 10 years into this business, is have an honest conversation with yourself. And here's the deal, like, likely either wherever you are in your journey in real estate, you've been telling yourself a story for a long time. And that story could be that you don't add up. It could be that you want to kill it. And if that is the case, I would invite you to just be very curious about that Is it like it was for me? Is it because you have something to prove? Because I think that when we picture this idea of killing it in real estate, like being this huge top producer and making all this money and stuff, I think that for a lot of us, I know this is true for me, maybe it's not for you, but for me, I think that it had a lot to do with, again, just having something to prove. So what I want to try to help you with today is just making sure that your goals and your thoughts are aligning with what you as an individual, with all of the social media and all of the other real estate agents in the entire world removed, does it align with what you actually want? Because here's the deal, real estate can be a super lucrative business. It can be an incredible blessing to your family financially. And what I'm realizing is it does not take breaking your back and killing yourself to make a living that pays the bills and allows you some financial freedom and some luxuries in life. And so ask yourself, like, if you're thinking and you are one of those like me who used to open up Instagram and immediately have these thoughts of like, you're not good enough, you're never going to do that, you're never going to have listings like they have, like, well, your business doesn't look like that. I mean, I don't know about the voices in your head, but man, mine were real a-holes sometimes. And so first of all, take notice of those thoughts. Really start to pay attention, be present, especially when you hop on to social media. Just pay attention to what's going on in your mind, and maybe you'll find that you need a little break or you need to unfollow some people, because if you're coming down on yourself every time you open social media because you're comparing yourself to another real estate agent in your market or anywhere else in the industry, in the country, that's a problem. Because this business is hard enough as it is. We can't be functioning on a day-to-day basis with our biggest enemy as ourselves, right? So take inventory, spend some time just noticing and recognizing what those thoughts are and what we're saying to ourselves, especially, like I said, when we open social media. And then honestly, be curious about them compassionately. Like, why are you comparing yourself to that person? Do they have something in their life or their business that you want? And maybe the answer is yes. And if that is the case, then spend some time journaling that. Like, what is it about that do they want? And then also realize that you are witnessing their highlight reel. Because here's the deal. The other side of me sitting in these rooms with these other producers is, if you spend any time getting to know them, you'll realize that they don't actually have it figured out, and they are not actually absolutely loving it or killing it in all areas of their lives. So yeah, maybe their forward-facing business looks like they are on top of the actual world, but what's their marriage look like? What's their relationship with their family? Are they healthy? Are they prioritizing their health? Like, are they a well-rounded human being, or do they just have this incredible Instagram-worthy business? And is that what you want, right? So just ask yourself these questions and let yourself off the hook. If some of those answers are no, I don't actually want that. No, I don't want to run a team of 150 agents. Letting myself off the hook from comparing myself to the Perry Group. Right? Again, is there something you're trying to prove to somebody? Because that was me. That was absolutely me. And I think that one of the things that I want to talk about at some point on this podcast too is just how our childhood can impact how we're growing our businesses, and how past trauma can really impact some of our businesses. If that is something that you are interested in learning more about and hearing, please reach out to me. I would love to know that I'm not alone in needing to sort through some childhood and past trauma in order to arrive at this idea of building the perfect business for you individually. So I'd love to hear from you. Message me on Instagram if that is something that you need to work through as well. Because for me, like I said, that there was a lot of proving that I felt like I needed to do. And now that I have healed through a lot of that, and I don't feel like I need to prove anything to myself, my business goals, my income goals even, have really changed. And again, this business can be so incredible without killing ourselves in order to achieve what we need to achieve to accomplish those goals. But the biggest thing is we need to have realistic goals. In fact, just a quick couple little stories here. I recently knocked off for myself a fourth of what I was quote unquote requiring myself to bring in for income, because I really sat down and looked at what I needed to make on a monthly basis, and I was like, why do you feel as though you need to make X amount of dollars? Because you don't. Like, for me to do what I want to do, I needed to make 3/4 of what I was putting on myself to achieve and to make in a month. And it's like, yeah, if I make more than that, awesome. We can invest, we can do some incredible things. Maybe we can put some more money aside for a big vacation we're planning for. Whatever that is, that's a beauty of real estate, is you do have the opportunity to pick it up and make more money some months more than others. But the pressure that I was putting on myself was unnecessary. And so here I was stressing about the income and the amount of deals that I needed to close and the amount of engagements that I needed to have and all of this. And it didn't actually align with what I actually needed. It was made up. It was completely made up. And so that's one of the questions I want you to ask yourself. Like, are your goals made up out of nowhere because they suit somebody else's desires? And what does it actually take? Because I think that what we can realize and what we can take away from this is that the beauty of real estate is that we literally get to design our own life. That is the beauty of this business. You absolutely, if you are one of those people that are like, no, I do want to be the number one producer, then you do that. You can do that. You can find all of the coaching and the resources that you need in order to be the number one producing team in your market. But I don't think that that's what the majority of people want when you really sit down and think about it. We want balance. We want to be able to have the flexibility to pick up our kid if they're sick, or go to their football game, or leave town for the weekend and go to their cheer competition. Like, when you're building this incredible business that equals the number one team in the country, while you're in that building phase, you don't get that kind of flexibility. So the other thing is, maybe it's a season. Like, does that goal that you set out, does it match the season that you're in right now? And that's a big one for me, because I'm in a season right now where my kids are my priority. And I know that sounds really bad, because they should have always been my priority. But just to be perfectly honest with you, my business was my priority. And I didn't necessarily set out to think that, but when I think about the way that I handled business, and when you say, like, open your calendar and I'll show you your priority, or whatever that saying is, I don't mean that I ever made the conscious decision that they were not my priority. But in hindsight, looking back, if you were to look at the way that I would cut a conversation short with my kid so that I could answer the phone, they were not my priority. My business was. And I guarantee you that that client that I stopped a conversation mid-sentence with my kid about to answer the phone, they're nowhere to be found anymore. They probably haven't even referred me a deal, right? And so it sounds really bad, but when I look back, that's just the reality of what my business looked like. And so right now I'm in a season where I have a freshman in high school. Like, the time is just flying right by. And so I have made a very vocal decision in proclamation that my kids and my family are my priority right now. And so that means I have to say no to some of the things in my business. And when I listen to these speakers and I listen to even some of the other agents around me, and I take it all in, and it sounds really incredible, like, listening to the guy that wants to make $1 million a year, I'm like, yes, that sounds so cool, but it's a no for me. And maybe it's just a no for me right now, but it's because if I say yes to that type of goal, I'm absolutely saying no to what I actually put as a priority, which is my kids and my husband. So I think this episode turned into a little bit more about setting priorities, but going back to my original thought for this episode is, what are the voices in your head saying to you? And are you okay with it? Or do you need to do some active rewiring? And so I just want to end the episode by giving you a couple tips on if those voices in your head are not serving you, like mine were. And so the thing that we need to do, and this could be in any aspect of life, honestly. This could be in, if you're in a weight loss journey or a health journey, or maybe you've got stuff going on with your family or your friends or whatever. This can really apply to anything. Our subconscious mind is always working, and our subconscious mind comes from our beliefs, and our beliefs are established by our thoughts. And so it all starts with our thoughts, and we need to take them captive. We need to literally take every thought captive, and we need to be aware enough about them to rewire them. And what that looks like is just changing that narrative. So when I literally last night was thinking, like, your business is never going to look like that. I mean, there were some really dark, mean thoughts that were happening last night at the end of this conference. And when they would come up, I would just rewire them, and almost it was like a conversation I was having with myself. And so a thought popped in that said, you're never going to have a team like that. I would follow that thought up with, I don't want a team like that. I just don't. Like, I don't want to try to yank a bunch of horses to water. It's not what I'm looking to achieve right now. And so I'm rewiring those thoughts of like, nope, that's not what I want. Like, so now when I open up my Facebook feed or my Instagram feed, and I see the number one in my market, the number, like the highlight reel of these agents, I remind myself, it's just a simple thought, like, not what I want. It doesn't align with my goals. That's a highlight reel. That's not real life. Like, also instilling, like, I am so grateful that blank. I am choosing my family right now. So you first have to recognize the thought, and I promise you, if you just open up your feed and you scroll far enough until it'll probably be like 2 or 3 posts where there is someone that's going to make you feel inferior, whether it's in real estate or life or whatever, you have to figure out what you need to say to that voice that is 100% going to say something negative to you. That voice is going to say, you're not good enough. You don't have that. Why doesn't your life look like that? Why aren't you doing that? Why doesn't your business, whatever it is, just compassionately be curious about that thought, be aware of it, and then have a rebuttal for it. And the way that you can start making these rebuttals, it's almost like an affirmation. You have to build them around what your goals are and what you actually want. So that's the first step, like figuring out what you want. Like for me, I had to figure out what it takes for me to be able to pay my bills and put some money aside into savings. And when I backed all of that up, I realized it does not equal back-breaking, working 7 days a week, 24 hours a day kind of work. It also allows me freedom to say no to certain clients. If they do not fit into my lifestyle, if they're not going to respect the fact that come January, I'm going to be gone at least 2 out of 4 weekends a month because I'm going to be at my daughter's cheer competition, and I'm not going to be spending time answering emails and necessarily writing contracts. So if they're not okay with me bringing on another agent that is in a different season and does have more availability, then they're a no for me. And guess what? Now that I know what my actual goals are, the goal is to only work with clients that are going to respect those boundaries and that time that I have set aside and the priorities that I have made for my family. I am only empowered to say no to those clients because I know that I don't have to accept every crappy lead or every buyer that doesn't respect my time and my priorities into my business. And so you need to sit down and really figure out, first of all, what does that look like? What are your priorities? What does your personal business look like? And I'd be happy to talk more about that. If you have questions about how I've done that, feel free to reach out to me. So figure that out first, and then you need to build these affirmations and these rebuttals to these negative thoughts that are coming in so that you can respond to them right away and you can shut them down, because otherwise it literally only takes 10, 20, 30 seconds to completely derail everything in our day-to-day if we don't take those thoughts captive and we don't recognize that when we open up so-and-so's Instagram account, it throws us off because we compare ourselves to them and it makes us feel super crappy. So I hope that those are some takeaways that you can actually start implementing into your business and into your thought patterns. Part of this concept of this mentorship podcast is really to help agents get off the hamster wheel and stop running a race that's not for them. Because I think that I know more agents who just want to take advantage of the blessing that this business can be without being the top producer in their marketplace. But that's just not the way that this industry teaches us. That's not the way that this industry sets us up. It's a very cutthroat, it's a very competitive industry, and I just want more for agents out there that maybe don't have a goal of being the number one producer, because they know that the life that comes along with being a number one producer is one that just doesn't align with the rest of their priorities and goals. So I would love to hear some feedback from you. If you are looking for more, reach out to me. I have a coaching program that I work with, and I'd love to set you up and let you know how you can very, very affordably just tap into that. And it's a program that helps you build a business that you love. It is not a coaching program that tells you have to door knock or cold call 100 people a day. So if you're interested in that, let me know. I'll also put a link in the show notes. So thank you so much for being here. I would really, again, love to hear your feedback. If you are liking this content, the way that you can help me to put out more and to keep going is just to share with a friend or give me a review on Apple or Spotify or wherever you listen to podcasts. So thanks again, and we will see you again soon on the Agent Mentor Podcast.